All right, everybody, we're going to continue our statistics unit today by discussing something called scatter plots. Our essential question today is how can I construct and make inferences about scatter plots? A couple things that we probably should identify and define here first is just the idea of what is a scatter plot. And a scatter plot is defined, and it will show the relationship between bivariate data on a graph. All right, so we're looking at a graph or a coordinate plane, and we're looking at some data within it, but then we have this term bivariate, so we probably should identify that as well. So hopefully you can kind of break down bivariate using your language arts skills. I'm sure those teachers would be very proud to hear that. And this is just where we have data with two variables or pairs of numerical data or statistics. All right, so we have that to start with. All right, there's kind of three ways in which we can see scatter plots. All right, we call those three ways correlations. All right, so I'm going to draw three different graphs here to show three different types of scatter plots. Now, you may wonder why I'm crossing these. It's showing that we can use the entire coordinate plane, but we're mostly just going to be working in quadrant one because we're mostly just going to be working with all positive numbers. All right. Do not forget that our horizontal line is our x, our vertical line is our y. All right. So what happens here is whatever this information is representing, I don't know. But whatever it is, when it's graphed, and it's usually a lot of information that's graphed here, if my dots are kind of like, or my points of, of data are kind of going in this trend, got my dot here, all over the place. When I look at this, I notice that as x is increasing, so like as the numbers here on our x line are getting larger, because that's what's going to happen on our graph numbers here. But as these numbers get larger, what happens to the y? Well, the y increases as well. All right, so since that's occurring, this is what we would call a positive correlation. It's going up and to the right, just like we have talked about since, November of lines. All right, so very similar to the idea of slope here. Our next type, maybe our data has this type of trend or correlation. Well, now, as I look at my data, as x is increasing still, I may want to have x. As x increases, so as I'm still going this way on my coordinate plane, but what's happening now is my y, it decreases. So as my x increases, my y's get smaller. All right, so we would call this a negative correlation. And our last one, I got just data all over the place. I can't really learn anything from it. This is what we'd call a no correlation, or none. We don't have a pattern. It just doesn't make any sense. I can't learn anything from the information. It's just data that's all over the place. All right. So those are the three types of correlations that we have. And then within those correlations, we got a couple of other things to define. All right, so we'll draw two more little graphs here for us. before I continue too far here, our movie quote for today is "Aim for the bushes." So hopefully you know what movie that came from. All right, so let's look at this one here. Now let's say we have a positive correlation. All right, but let's say we have just a ton of data in this area right here. Then we got some data over here, but most of it's concentrated right there. This right here is what we'd call a cluster of the data. But let's say you also have that guy right there. Got everything kind of going right here in this positive correlation, but we got this guy way over here. This guy over here is what we would call an outlier. We kind of discussed that earlier on. All right, so I want to compare what this trend looks like to this one over here. I want to make this one a little bit larger here. All right, so we got some data here, and then it's kind of coming back this way. Then it's kind of coming like this. All right, so we don't have any clusters here. We don't really have any outliers. But what I do see is the data is kind of curving. This is what we would call, just like since November, nonlinear data. Over here, since it's all in a straight line, that would be linear data. All right, so those are the kind of the 5 things that we need to look for, as well as kind of learning information based on what we're looking within our graphs. All right, once you have some word problems with it, that part will make a little bit more sense. In your packet, you have a couple of pages. Pages 129 and 130 have some examples. On the Google Classroom, you'll be required to answer a couple of specific questions here, as well as state the movie quote. That needs to be done by the end of Tuesday evening. All right, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Peace.